In NBA, let's head to Brooklyn now. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant getting on the same page this preseason. Last week, Kyrie said he's not talking to the media this season and was subsequently fined. And then all of a sudden, Kyrie found some time to talk to the media. I wonder what changed. Here's Kyrie with more.
You know, having disappointing seasons the last few years hasn't necessarily been the best reflection that I wanted to put out, but you know, it's a different show. It's a different stage, and it's a new beginning in terms of what we're building and moving forward with the pieces we have here. And that includes 7-Eleven, so get to know us.
Let's go.
All right, Chris Broussard is joining us now. Broussard, good morning. There's a lot here with these two guys. There's the team, there's the hype, but let's start with this duo. What's more likely, do you think, for KD and Kyrie in the Nets this season? An NBA title or, let's call it, or disaster?
Well, Jenna, if the question was an NBA Finals appearance or disaster, I would go with NBA Finals appearance. I do think this Nets team can be the second best team in the league. I don't see them beating the Lakers. I think the Lakers are just superior. Now, I'd be foolish to sit here and say there's not a reasonable chance of disaster. With Kyrie's history of injuries, with his history of locker room issues with teammates, with his history of making bizarre and odd comments, there's certainly a chance of disaster. Heck, now that he thinks he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and wants to post up 8 times a game, you have to leave open the door for disaster. However, I heard 3 things yesterday that made me optimistic about this Nets team having success. 1, Kyrie did speak to the pawns in the media, and he was calm and relaxed and comfortable. Number 2, he took back his statement from months ago about the Nets not needing a head coach, and he gave Steve Nash the respect he deserves. Number 3, when he unveiled the new nickname, 7-Eleven, I like that nickname, even though it's just kind of a glorified bodega, but still, it's a great nickname. 7-Eleven, notice, Kyrie is second, okay? Durant, number 7, is first. Nets fans have to hope that means Kyrie understands the pecking order. KD number 1, I'm number 2. So look, I'm going to say the Nets have a better chance of being Eastern Conference champions than they do of having a disaster.
That's a very interesting take. It's also not the question. The question is title, not Eastern Conference title. It's NBA title or disaster. I think it's also important to define disaster. Would you agree that anything short of a conference finals appearance would be a disaster? If they have the same playoff run the Clippers did last year, that would be a disaster for this team, right? If they're in the second round and out, given the expectations, because I think that would be a disaster for them. Go ahead, and then I'll give my take.
I think I'll say quickly, I think it would obviously be a disappointment, but disaster depends on how it ends. If it ends, if they finish losing the second round because Kyrie's caused problems or Durant and Kyrie didn't get along, that's a disaster.
It's all different.
But if they could lose in a way where in the next year you're optimistic and think, okay, it just took a year to get it together, they'll do that.
So here's my real concern for the Nets. I think they are going to be very, very similar to last year's Mavs. An absolutely unstoppable offense that can't stop anybody on the other end. And when you look at the East, Milwaukee, a great defense. Boston and Philly, very, very good defenses. I think Toronto's going to take a step back, but they were the number 2 defense in basketball last year. Miami, a very good defense. By the way, I just listed 5 teams, plus the Nets. 2 of those teams, forget round 2, are going out in round 1. That's just the math. And so I think the defense is going to be a work in progress at best, which, Brandon, puts such a massive weight on the shoulders of Kevin Durant. Now, I think Kevin Durant can walk back into the league and be the second best player in basketball. I think he can. I need to see it, but I think he can. But as we've talked about, there's being a great player, and then there's also the leadership part. And I think KD can be a great leader, but he hasn't had to be a leader in nearly 5 years. He was never the leader in Golden State because that wasn't his role. So he's got to be the leader. He's probably got to be their best defensive player as well as their best offensive player. And he's coming off an Achilles. It's just a massive weight on Durant's shoulders, Brandon, going into this year. So my answer would be it's more likely they don't make a conference finals than they win the NBA title.
Well, I have them winning the title this year, so the answer for me is NBA title because of their chemistry. Now, a lot of people don't understand it. It's weird. It's one of those things where you see a couple and it's like, man, why are they together? It just seemed like the odd couple, and it's like it just works for them. It works for these guys. You go back to everything you talked about, Chris. One of the things that KD said was, look, we agreed on 2 to 3 post-ups. And you have to check with me. He established who is leading this thing from the beginning. So I love to hear that. Let's not forget how prolific both of these guys were before, you know, the shutdown and also before they got hurt. These are 2 of the most prolific scorers in NBA history. The game is about scoring the basketball right now. There's only 2 or 3 teams that really play good defense. You got the Lakers, you can throw out the Heat, maybe you put it the Milwaukee Bucks, and maybe one other team. But this is not about defense, this is about offense. For those reasons, I'm going with NBA title. I want to show you guys this as well, just to double down on this point. 25 points per game, 45% from the field, 35% from 3, 85% from the line. This is the list right here. That's Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant. There's nobody else on this list. This is probably the best scorer in the league. He'll take them to the title, 100%.
Yeah. It's a bold claim. I'm going to give them a year with the condensed schedule, Broussard, and I think Steve Nash is going to limit both Kyrie and Durant's minutes. I think you made a lot of good points and one wild point. The fact that they named themselves 7-11 because Kyrie has put himself in the 2nd position because that was the pecking order of sort of usage rate rather than just it has a good ring to it. I'm going to give you a chance here to walk that back and acknowledge that he's just making it a brand statement of, hey, it's 7-11. We're always open. More so than it is a wink towards the usage rate plan for the Brooklyn Nets this year. Go ahead, Broussard.
Well, I must admit, if the name was 11-7, he probably would go with 11-7. I get you on that. But I do think that he has a respect. And I know he respect. You can't help but respect LeBron James, okay? However, I think Kyrie has more of a respect for Kevin Durant's game. I might be wrong, but I think he has more of a respect for Kevin Durant's skills than he has for LeBron's. I think he looks at Durant as, I mean, this dude is 7 feet tall, wildly, I mean, as Brandon said, he's arguably the best scorer we've ever seen. Look at what he can do. And whereas LeBron obviously was tremendously skilled or is, I think you can also say in Kyrie's mind, well, he's so big too and fast and athletic, whereas Durant is strictly just straight up skilled. And I think Kyrie has huge respect for that. So I think that bodes well for their chemistry. Yes, 7 feet.
All right, let's play a little in or out, guys. James Harden joined Rockets practice on Monday, finally. Still reportedly is pushing for a trade. Unmoved, uninterested in a pairing with John Wall. Broussard, back to you. You in or out on James Harden being on the Rockets when the season starts? Their shorts.
Oh, I'm in on this. Unless Philadelphia decides they want to trade Ben Simmons before the season, which is not going to happen, Harden will be a Rocket. If I'm Houston, look, I'm saying let's get James in here. Let him see how good John Wall is. Wall is not as good as Westbrook, but he is a more skilled player, and I think Harden will recognize and respect that. Let's let him see Boogie Cousins, who's got something to prove and actually looks, you know, the few preseason games like he's still got his skills about him. Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker. Like, this team has talent. It's just a matter of bringing it together. So I am giving that a chance to work with James Harden. And even if Harden doesn't eventually buy in and say, you know what, I'm cool staying here in Houston, all it will do is up his trade value and your ability to get more for him if he's a good soldier.
Yeah, I think even if John Wall comes back,
Go.